Before we step into the world where mountains whisper and secrets awaken, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss another mystical video. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The mountains spoke on a night when no wind stirred, and every living soul in the valley froze in terror. A hush had settled over the small village of Dareth, nestled deep between towering granite peaks. It was an ordinary evening, the kind where families huddled around fires, children chased shadows with laughter, and elders whispered stories of old. But then it came like a murmur rolling through stone, a sound not made by wind, water, or man. The mountains whispered. At first it was faint, like the sigh of the earth itself, but within moments the voices grew clearer, echoing through the ravines and ridges. They were not the cries of animals nor the howl of storms. No, they were words. Words spoken in a language forgotten by time, yet understood in the marrow of every listener. Villagers stumbled into the streets, torches raised high, faces pale with dread. Even the livestock stilled, ears twitching as though they too listened. The mountains were telling secrets, but secrets no human was meant to hear. Among the crowd stood Elira, a 17-year-old orphan whose curiosity often outweighed her caution. Unlike the others, she did not cower. She tilted her head, straining to catch every syllable. She swore the voices weren't threatening, they were calling. Elira! The sound curled like smoke into her ears. Her name, the mountain had spoken her name. Gasps erupted when she stumbled forward, her torch quivering in her hand. "Did you hear it?" she whispered. But no one answered. Their eyes held only fear. To them it was noise. To her it was a message. That night Elira couldn't sleep. The whispers crawled into her dreams, pulling her toward the shadowed cliffs. By dawn she made a decision. She would climb to the highest ridge, where the echoes had been strongest, and demand answers from the mountains themselves. Her best friend Kale tried to stop her. "Are you mad? The peaks are cursed. People vanish there. Maybe they vanish because they're meant to," she replied, her voice steady. With nothing but a small pack and her stubborn will, Elira set out alone. The villagers watched her go, some murmuring prayers, others convinced she'd never return. But as she walked toward the rising cliffs, something uncanny happened. The mountain's whisper rose again, not loud, not terrifying this time, gentle, almost guiding. And though no one else could hear it, Elira smiled, for the mountain was still speaking her name. Every step Elira took into the mountains felt less like walking and more like answering a summons. The path was steep, jagged, and cruel. Loose stones skittered beneath her boots and the thin air burned her lungs. Yet she did not falter. The whispers guided her, not with clear instructions, but with a rhythm like a song only she could hear. As she climbed, the world behind her seemed to vanish. The village was a speck, the valley below swallowed in mist. Silence should have ruled here, but the mountains spoke more insistently now, their voices layered upon one another, countless tongues woven into one endless murmur. Elira. The syllables pressed against her chest like a heartbeat. Closer, come closer. By noon she reached a narrow ledge where the rocks bore strange carvings. Spirals, jagged lines, and eyes etched deep into the stone, their edges smoothed by centuries. She brushed her fingers against them, feeling a pulse, yes, a living pulse thrum beneath the surface. Her stomach twisted. Were these markings left by her ancestors, or by something far older? Elira. She turned sharply. Kale stood below, panting, his clothes torn from climbing. He must have followed her. "You're insane," he shouted up. "Do you hear yourself? Talking about voices? About answers?" "I don't just hear them, Kale," she replied. "They know me. They called me here." He shook his head. "Or maybe they're luring you to your death." But before she could argue, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A sound like grinding stone split the air and one of the carved walls shifted. Rocks slid apart, revealing a narrow opening blacker than night itself. Both of them froze. "Elira." The whisper deepened, coming not from the air but from the darkness beyond the opening. Her skin prickled. Kale's face drained of color. "No," he hissed, backing away. "That's no voice of God's. That's something buried for a reason." But Elira stepped closer, transfixed. Her torchlight barely reached inside, but she saw glimmers, metallic streaks on the walls, shifting like veins of silver. The air smelled of damp earth and something ancient, older than mountains themselves. "Elira, stop!" Kale's voice cracked. "Once you go in, you may never come out." She looked back at him, her eyes burning with a strange certainty. Then maybe that's what I'm meant for. And with that, she crossed the threshold. The stone door rumbled shut behind her. Kale screamed her name, pounding against the sealed rock, but the mountain had swallowed her whole. Inside, Elira's torch flickered weakly. The whispers grew louder, not around her, but within her. The mountain no longer spoke as stone. It spoke as blood, breath, and bone. And for the first time, Elira realized, these weren't whispers of secrets. They were whispers of a promise. The darkness did not feel empty. It felt alive, watching her every step. Elira's torch sputtered as she moved deeper into the hidden passage. The walls glistened with streaks of mineral light like veins of liquid silver, glowing faintly as though the stone itself carried a heartbeat. The whispers no longer echoed around her. They pulsed directly inside her skull, weaving into her thoughts. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt strangely guided, like a child returning to a home she had never seen but always belonged to. After what felt like hours of winding corridors, the path widened into a vast chamber. Her torchlight revealed pillars, carved into the likeness of towering figures, beings with elongated faces, hollow eyes, and mouths wide as if eternally caught mid-chant. Their expressions were not cruel but sorrowful, guardians burdened with knowledge too heavy for mortals. In the center of the chamber stood a stone dais. Upon it rested something wrapped in roots and crystal, glowing faintly with a pale blue hue. The whispers surged when her eyes fell upon it. Elira, the voices crooned. Unbind it. Claim what is yours. Her hands trembled as she stepped forward. The air thickened, heavy with age. She reached out, brushing away the roots. Beneath them lay an object, an orb smooth as glass, yet filled with swirling mist that shifted like trapped storms. As soon as her fingers touched it, visions erupted. She saw mountains rising from oceans in violent eruptions, valleys swallowing entire civilizations, and shadows moving across the sky like living storms. Then faces, countless faces, men and women staring with awe and terror, listening to mountains that whispered just as they did now. But then came silence, broken by a voice stronger than the rest. You are not the first, Elira. You are the chosen one. The orb pulsed, sending a wave of light across the chamber. For a moment, the sorrowful faces carved into the pillars seemed to move, their hollow eyes glistening with something like tears. Elira staggered back, gasping. The orb felt heavy in her arms as though it carried centuries of memory. Behind her, a thunderous sound shook the chamber. Kale. He had forced his way through a narrow crack in the sealed door, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Elira, what have you done? She clutched the orb close to her chest. I didn't choose this. It chose me. The whispers swelled, louder than ever. The chamber trembled, dust raining from above. From deep within the walls, a crack spread, as though something vast was waking. Kale's voice broke. We need to leave, now. But the mountain's voice surged above his cries, echoing inside her skull. No one leaves once the truth has been awakened. The mountain did not shake like earth in an earthquake. It shuddered like a living beast taking its first breath in centuries. Elira staggered, clutching the orb to her chest as the chamber groaned. The carved pillars trembled and fissures split the floor. From those cracks poured a faint glow, like molten stars buried beneath the stone. Kyle grabbed her arm. We have to go now. But the whispers thundered, overwhelming, drowning even the sound of his voice. They were no longer murmurs, they were a chorus. Thousands of voices, pleading, warning, and commanding all at once. Elira, bearer of memory, awaken what sleeps. Her knees buckled as visions blazed behind her eyes. She saw the mountains not as stone, but as bodies, colossal beings chained in silence, their spines forming ridges, their hearts buried deep below. They were not mere peaks. They were prisoners. Elira. Kale shook her violently, dragging her back. Look at me. Whatever this is, it's not meant for you. But when she met his gaze, her eyes were glowing faintly with the same blue as the orb. Kels, it's been meant for me since before I was born. The chamber roared. A section of the wall collapsed, revealing another passage, wider and steeper, sloping downward. A gust of ancient air blew out, cold and damp, carrying a sound that was not whisper but breath. Kale's face twisted in horror. Something's alive down there. Elira's hands tightened on the orb. Something's been kept alive. The ground lurched again, nearly throwing them both to their knees. From the new passage came a sound, deep, resonant, inhuman. It was not words, but a heartbeat. Slow and thunderous, shaking dust from the ceiling. Boom, boom, boom. The orb pulsed in time with it. Kale's voice cracked. Elira, listen to me. If you go down there, you won't come back. This isn't destiny, it's a curse. But the whispers inside her head twisted his words into something else. If you go down there, you'll set us free. Her heart raced. She could feel the truth now. The mountains had never whispered to the villagers because they weren't meant to. They whispered only to her. She stepped toward the passage, her torchlight swallowed by the darkness within. Kyle caught her wrist one last time, desperation in his eyes. If you choose this path, you'll lose yourself. You'll lose me. Her lips parted, trembling, but no words came. The orb throbbed in her hands, pulling her forward, and with a breath that sealed her fate, Elira whispered back to the mountain for the first time. I'm ready. The chamber shook violently, the heartbeat quickened, and from the abyss below came a sound so ancient, so vast it silenced every other whisper. A single word. Free. The moment the word free thundered through the stone, the world above trembled as if the very sky feared what had awoken. Elira stumbled forward, the orb blazing in her arms. Its stormy mist swirling violently. The walls split wider, and Kale dragged himself close, shielding her as rocks fell from above. But the mountain's heartbeat drowned out everything, faster and faster until it felt like the entire range was alive. Then silence. For a breathless instant, nothing moved. And then the chamber lit up. The glowing veins in the walls flared like rivers of lightning, streaking outward, into the world above. The sorrowful faces carved into the pillars shuddered, and their mouths opened, not in endless chant this time, but in a scream that was not pain but release. Elira. The chorus spoke, no longer whispers, but voices vast as thunder, layered as the earth itself. The silence is broken. The chained will rise. Kale shouted over the rumbling, his face ashen. What have you done? You've woken something we can't control. But Elira felt no fear, for in her mind the voices had calmed. They no longer pleaded. They welcomed. The orb cracked in her hands, shards falling like glass, releasing a blinding surge of light that sank into her chest. She gasped, her body burned, yet she did not let go. The power coursed through her veins, the mountain's memory fusing with her own. Visions stormed her mind. Colossal beings of stone and spirit shackled beneath the peaks. Ancient guardians betrayed by men who feared their strength. A covenant broken, leaving the mountains to whisper their grief for millennia. And now through her they spoke once more. Elira. The voice within her was no longer many, but one, a deep solemn tone. You are our vessel. Speak and the world shall listen. Her lips trembled. The thought terrified her, yet when she looked at Kale, his eyes wide, torn between terror and love, she realized there was no turning back. The chamber cracked open to the sky above, daylight spilling in. From the peaks a roar erupted, not of beasts but of mountains themselves groaning awake. Across the valley, villagers fell to their knees as the ridges and cliffs shifted like titans stretching their limbs. Kale grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. If you speak their secrets, nothing will ever be the same. Do you understand? You'll change the world. Elira closed her eyes, inhaling the weight of countless centuries. She was no longer just a girl of the valley. She was the voice of the mountains. When she opened her eyes again, they glowed with the light of the earth itself. And for the first time since the dawn of man, the mountains did not whisper. They spoke. If the whispers of the mountains gave you chills, hit subscribe, drop a like, and join our circle of seekers, because the next mystery may already be calling your name. Until then, keep listening to the silence, because sometimes it speaks.